back, everybody. So every day we express ourselves with phrases or sayings that don't make much sense, but we kind of know what they mean.
But we know what you're talking about.
But where did they come from? Well, here to break down the science of the most common everyday phrases and idioms is someone who is not an idiom at all. I dare call him an idiom. His name is Dan Kohler.
Thank you. Yeah, every language is actually filled with very strange phrases that at some point were quite literal. So hundreds of years ago in the English language, a lot of these phrases were quite literal and they made perfect sense. And then they just get grandfathered in. You start using these over and over and over. And then after a couple of centuries, they're so distanced from their origin that we're using them because we know a meaning, but not because they actually are literal anymore.
Where they came from.
And that is what an idiom is.
So, Catherine, is there a specific idiom that you use often?
I use, I'm a little too long in the tooth for that.
Everybody knows long.
We know what that means.
It's very southern.
Mark certainly knows what that means.
Oh. Wow.
Really? This late in the game, you're going to take a jab at me? Catherine, do you know where that comes from?
I don't, but I have some ideas, but I'd like to hear.
All right.
So this actually comes from horse grooming.
Okay.
Were you on? Did you know this?
I'm a Sagittarius.
Okay, great.
And I was born in the year of the horse.
Great, so you know all of this already. So as horses age, their teeth actually do get longer. And so when you were inspecting horses for their value hundreds of years ago, you would actually look for the length of their teeth to guess how old they were in case the person selling you the horse was lying to you about the age of the horse. So you could tell if a horse was long in the tooth, it was quite old.
My guess was going to be receding gums. That was my guess. All right, Kim.
It's very similar.
You use idioms all the time. Your whole life is an idiom.
I really do. I love idioms because I think it's just so fun to be able to say throw out these little one-liners. So I constantly say, oh my gosh, I'm just waiting for the other shoe to drop. It's like, you know what? I need to get to work on time. I locked my keys in my car. I have a flat tire. And this does happen just about every morning.
Yeah.
And I'm waiting for the other shoe to drop.
You have no idea where it comes from?
No, but I think it's like, oh, you have bad luck.
You're right.
Okay.
You're waiting for the other shoe to drop.
Now what's next?
So Kim using this phrase is actually why we're doing this segment. Because she and I were talking one day and she used the phrase and we said, I wonder where that comes from. So the other shoe to drop actually comes from New York City in the late 1800s, early 1900s, when everyone was living in tenement buildings. And these apartments were crammed so tightly, you can see. They were crammed so tightly with families and they were very poorly insulated so that when your neighbors would come home above you, you could hear nearly everything they did, including when somebody would walk in and take their shoes off after returning home from work. Now, if you are used to hearing two shoes drop every day when they come home from work, and they come home and they only take one shoe off, you're in your apartment below waiting for the other shoe to drop. Quite literally, before you go on with your day. It was a very literal phrase for a long time.
Or they could have lost a leg. They could. Which sends me to Paige.
My grandfather lost his leg.
Hey, Jersey,
he only had one shoe to drop.
I like
Moving on.
Well, all of these things, it's stuff we say all the time. Especially I'm a real estate agent and I have clients and I'll tell them to throw out everything that they don't need, declutter, make their house really nice and staged. And I had one lady who got rid of everything, literally, and I was like, oh, don't throw the baby out with the bathwater.
Yeah, that's an
awful one. Please tell me that's not true.
I'm so glad she didn't ask me what that meant.
Or that she didn't have a baby.
Yes.
Exactly.
Yes, she was talking about knickknacks. But then I thought, what if she asked me what that meant? I meant just don't give away everything. Keep something.
Yeah.
All right, Dan.
Well,
please don't tell me.
You're really close. I mean, so the original meaning of that is don't throw out something essential when you're getting rid of all of the inessential. And it actually comes from the 1500s. We have a woodblock carving of it in German. Das Kind mit dem Bade ausschütten. The children with the bath don't throw out, essentially. And so one of the myths of this idiom actually is that in the 1500s, it was very hard to fill and heat a bathtub. So when a family would bathe, they would use one tub of water, and everyone would bathe in the same water, going down from the father, the mother, and then the children in the order of their age. And when you got to the baby, the water actually might be quite murky and dirty. And so this phrase would come about by saying, don't throw the baby out with the bathwater, because you actually might not see the baby in that dirty water.
Oh my God.
Disgusting.
Then they start putting the baby in the cake.
You're so exhausted because you have so many kids you don't even know. Was there a baby in there?
It's like the old lady.
Don't throw the baby out with the bathwater. Check and see if there's a baby still in there.
Because it was so dirty you couldn't see the baby. That is really offensive. I'm
Wow.
sorry. Dr. JJ,
Doctor.
speaking of babies, you had a phrase that you used all the time.
My grandmother helped raise us, and she was a real stickler for manners. And so if we received a gift or something nice was done for us, she insisted that we write a thank you note. And she said, always mind your P's and Q's. Just remember that in life, mind your P's and Q's. So I took it to mean always have manners, always write a thank you note. That was my interpretation. But Dan, what do you think?
Mind your P's and Q's, I think, is a really interesting one because we've got dueling origin stories for it, and none of them actually mean what it means today. So right now we think mind your P's and Q's is mind your manners, say your pleases and thank yous. One of the origin stories we have for it is that in pubs in England in sort of the 1800s, when they were serving beer, you serve beer in pints and quarts. And so if a drinker at the bar was getting too rowdy, the bartender would shout out, mind your P's and Q's, mind what you're drinking, mind how much you are consuming, your pints and your quarts. So that's one origin story. Now the other is that before we had digital typesetting and digital newspapers and everything was hand set, typography was very expensive. If you made a mistake, it was very expensive to correct that. Now P's and Q's, especially lowercase, look very similar. So head editors
Also backwards, probably, right?
So editors would tell their typesetters, mind your P's and Q's, because actually it's going to cost a lot of money if we make that mistake.
Can we look at that picture one more time from the bar? Because let me just show you real quickly.
This is the baby.
The baby that they throw in the bathwater ended up in the bar. That baby in the bathwater at the bar.
We'll be right back. We'll be right back.
What is going on?